Hello, I'm Juliette Foster and I'm delighted to welcome you to X-Bank Talks from Publicis Sapient, the series that shines a light on the next generation of banking. Now, in this series, we're talking to banking leaders about the future of the industry, discussing challenges and, of course, finding solutions. And today we're going to be talking about digital ecosystems, partnerships and embedded finance. And we'll be focusing on the customer relationship. Big topics, which is why I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by a panel of experts. Let's meet them. First up, Vinita Ramtree. She's the Global Head API Standards and Governance at HSBC. Very good to see you.
Thank you.
Next, we've got Dan Globerson. Now, he's the Head of the Bank of APIs at NatWest Group. Good to see you too.
Excellent. Thank you, Juliette.
Great. Joris Henson, who's the founder and co-lead of Deutsche Bank's API program. Good to see you. And last but not least, Ronnie Mitra, who's the Director of Technology at Publicis Sapient. Good to see you too. OK, so look, there's a lot to cover in the time available. And Dan, you'll be delighted to know that you've got the first question. It's your privilege.
You've set me up.
I set you up. You got it in one. But look, as somebody who's viewing everything that's happening from one of the big traditional banks, do you see non-financial entrants into the banking sector as more on the lines of partners or perhaps competitors? What's the perception?
It's a good question. I think from a public perception, the answer would be competitors for sure. I think for many of us in our banks, where we're more progressive thinking, we're more forward thinking, we're thinking about an emerging digital economy. I think we're beginning to see fintechs and some big techs as partners for sure.
OK, let's hold that thought, Ronnie, because given this, how do you think banks can continue to keep that critical customer relationship? And what's the best way to approach these entrants in terms of managing them?
I don't know that there's a single critical customer relationship, right? I think the people on my left will tell you it's much more complicated than that. I think in the B2B space, for example, you have relationship managers. That's your customer relationship. So if the bank is providing tools, well, you keep the relationship going and you provide value with integration. But as the world gets more digital, then I think the banks need to start taking a piece of the world of experience. If you think about someone like Google, they provide identity services. If you sign in with your Google ID, you know you're signing in with your Google ID. So there might be a piece there where banks need to start branding, even though they're powering a service or powering a third party.
It's funny, isn't it, how Google always comes up in this, or Amazon as some sort of a benchmark. But let me throw it to you, Vinita, because look, given what is happening, what we've just heard, what is the best practice for working with new entrants? Because you're talking about really controlling, managing relationships. And above all, how can the banks themselves ensure that they're doing it in a way that's not just strategic, but above all, it's sustainable over the long term?
I think that's a really great question, Juliette. And the key thing here when we talk about strategy and sustainability is about really clarifying, one, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Because if we try and sometimes, just partner for the sake of partnering or for the sake of looking savvy, then it won't have teeth. So the first thing is to figure out what is the problem we're trying to solve. And the next then for me from a sustainability viewpoint is who's going to do what? Who owns the customer? Who owns the relationship? Who owns the contract? So, just the devil, as they say, is in the detail, but that's crucial for sustainability. OK,
so look at the basics. And given that, Joris, what can banks get from these partnerships? And how can they make sure that they're working for both sides? There has to be a quid pro quo in this.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think it's really a win situation for everyone. The customer can benefit of new products. Partners can tap into an existing client base, and banks could basically increase customer loyalty, but also win new customers because they're able to offer products they might have not developed themselves, because they are niche products. You need a very specific knowledge. And I think what is important is that you see partnerships at eye level, that you understand you're not a big corporate, and then you have the small startup on the other side, but you work on eye level, understand the context, work on an existing client problem that you're trying to solve, and then work along with through processes and also supportive tools, maybe like a developer portal, tools to expose data quickly.
It sounds very easy when you put it that way.
It sounds very easy, but as you put it, the devil is in the details. And I feel like really the difference is between you talk about digitizing something onto the outside or the whole process, and looking into the different parts to make it really digitize. I think that's the challenge.
And that determines the start position. But look, Ronnie, let's throw it back to you before we close. What is it that banks need to be doing now to make sure that they're ready to build these crucial partnerships without losing the customer relationship? Because if you lose that relationship, that's it, it's game over.
Well, I think the truth is banks have been playing this space for a long time. I don't think anyone on this panel is going to say, well, we've just started thinking about offering services to partners. But what the banks need to do now is figure out what they really want to do. So are they going to invest in this at the expense of other channels and other ways they're driving customer relationships today? Are they going to change who their customer is? What business are they in at this moment? So answering that really big, important question is going to drive all the rest of the behaviors and strategic decisions.
Okay, soul searching, in other words, at a very intrinsic level. But look, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for those fascinating insights. Plenty there for all of us to chew on. But all that remains for me to say is thank you for joining. And of course, we look forward to seeing you again very soon.